everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Daniela Schwartzman, Strategic Partnerships Manager here at BayWa r.e, and I am super excited about today's webinar and all of you being here. We are going to introduce you a blueprint for Safe Harbor with BayWa r.e and our amazing guests and from our partners SolarEdge and Sunstone Credit. I'm really honored to be joined by you guys today. Starting from the top, we have Kleber Faccini here. He's the Director of CC&I Product and Applications at SolarEdge Technologies. We have Duncan Hinkle. He is the Chief Commercial Officer at Sunstone Credit. We also have Varsha here. She is the Director of Product Marketing C&I at SolarEdge. That's a picture of myself. I already introduced myself. We have one more guest here today. It's Travis Walker. He's the Director of Business Development at BayWa r.e. He is also here to support you, Travis and everyone. Hello. Thank you all for joining us today. While everyone is logging on, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Please open the Q&A right now. That is your place to ask any kind of questions or share comments, anything you want to share with us. This would be the place. We are not using the chat other than for any kind of resources. So right now you'll find some very important links where you can learn a little bit about BayWa and other resources there as well. But before we dive into our topic, Safe Harbor, one of the most important topics right now, I want to share with you a little bit how BayWa can support your success here. It's our priority, and partnering with BayWa gives you the tools, the guidance, and reliability to grow stronger and move faster. How this works and what you can expect is by a number of things like smarter planning. Forecasting is one of the advantages. You can stay ahead of the demand with accurate forecasting and a dedicated account manager who always has your back and is available for you. Purchasing is easy, is fast. Through our web store, you can streamline your operations and your procurement with that user-friendly web store, real-time pricing, immediate ordering. There's no friction and no delays. We can also help you with commercial project confidence. So you can tap into our expert planning services and precise inventory forecasting for your commercial jobs, letting them run very smoothly from design all the way to delivery. Pricing is consistent, so you can expect transparent, consistent pricing. You can rely on those pricing, the stable pricing across all of our strategically located U.S. warehouses. There are no surprises, no hidden fees. You can also access the products you need quickly thanks to those warehouses across the country. It's reliable. We also offer direct to job site delivery. You can have your products delivered straight to the construction site or to your job site. That saves you time and skipping some extra steps. So if you are a US-based installer, please check out the chats, reach out to us, and someone will be reaching out to you. This, as I said, Safe Harbor is a really big topic, super important for our industry. There's a disclaimer here. All the information provided here is for general informational purposes only, should not be construed as tax, legal, accounting, or financial advice. So BayWa r.e and its employees are not qualified in these fields and do not hold any relevant certifications or licenses. So before making any decisions related to taxes and the matters herein, please seek the assistance of a qualified advisor. That was a mouthful. Please bear that in mind as we go through the presentation. And without further ado, let's dive right in. All right, I'm happy to hand it over to Varsha. Varsha, whenever you're ready, you can jump right in.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you so much for having us. Give me just a second. I'm going to share here. Okay. Let me know when this shows up.
Yep, we can see your slides.
Okay, how about now? Still looking good? Full screen? Great. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us today. And thanks for hosting us, Daniela and team. We're gonna have a great webinar. Our goal today is to walk you through the blueprint for safe harboring. And without further ado, let me just dive into the agenda here. What I'll be doing initially is going through the timelines and the benefits of safe harboring. Duncan will then get into the financing mechanisms and the Milestone Plus program that he has with Sunstone Credit. And then Kleber is going to get into calculating the actual FEOC and domestic content thresholds for both rooftop, carport, and ground mount projects. He's also going to go through how to achieve safe harbor via the 5% safe harbor test and the physical work test and what that means to you. And finally, I will end with a summary of the 5 steps to safe harbor and some resources. And then we'll open up to Q&A. But feel free to leave questions throughout the webinar. You don't have to wait until the very end. So with that, I do want to quickly highlight a disclaimer for us as well, similar to what Daniela did. I want to ensure that you understand that we are not a tax consultant. So if you do need any project-specific guidance, please reach out to your tax attorney. Okay, so with that, I'm going to pass it to you, Daniela, to pop the whole question out.
Sounds great. We would love to hear a little bit about you before we dive in deeper to make sure you get the information that you need. Where are you in your safe harbor journey?
Yeah, I think the
So
right one's showing up on the
already,
screen. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I'm going to read this out, and once if we are not able to pull up the right poll question, please just share it in the Q&A with us. Are you already safe harbored, locked and loaded? Are you planning to safe harbor modules? Are you planning to safe harbor inverters? I'm still evaluating whether it makes sense for my projects. Not planning to safe harbor at all.
Yeah, so I feel like since a lot of you are saying you're still evaluating whether it makes sense for you, I feel like you're in the right webinar. Hopefully by end of this hour, you'll have the numbers and the framework to make a clear yes or no. And for people who are safe harboring modules, I think that's smart. We'll definitely cover on how to do it without overcommitting your capital and by using partial domestic content modules specifically. So. I think there's something for everyone here. All right. With that, let me start jumping into the slides here. I wanted to show a very quick message from one of our industry partners and thought leaders, Aaron Wilson from Solar One. So we asked him if he had a safe harbor message, to the industry here, and he did this very quick interview with us. So let me play it. Let me know if you guys can hear it. Okay.
Well, if you're sitting on the fence isn't going to be there to sit on after July 4th. My mentality with our peers and our trade allies, if you want to call it that, at the end of the day, this industry needs good companies building good projects. Solar One is not going to build all of these projects. We understand that. And we're part of a larger industry. And as an industry, we have to find ways to safe harbor projects moving into the future. So spend the time now investing in your future pipeline. And the devil's in the details. So make sure that you're bringing in the right people to give the right guidance. I will say that SolarEdge is a very well organized and capable company that understands the nuance and how their product ultimately can assist in delivering a path to safe harbor beyond December 31st, 2027. And if your company is going to thrive and grow, you have to come up with a strategy of how that is applicable in a multitude of markets and in a multitude of customer classifications.
All right. Okay, So hopefully that had a message going there, about don't sit on the fence, and we'll actually walk you through why safe harboring is going to help you provide some economic benefits to your whole project pipeline. So before we begin today, I wanted to frame the 5 questions that keep coming up in every safe harbor discussion on our side. The first thing is, why do it at all? And the answer is simple. It protects long-term project economics. And the second is financing. And this is why Duncan is here today. He's going to definitely walk you through the different financing mechanisms. But the question is, how do you fund safe harbor orders without tying up excess cash? The third is equipment, right? What materials, what equipment qualifies for FEOC, what qualifies for domestic content? And it's a little hard to figure out with all the percentages and the different tables, and to ascertain which ones reduce your risk. The fourth is execution. Who can help me execute safe harbor, and how do I secure inventory and manage delivery correctly? And the fifth and the most important one is due diligence. What documentation would stand up to the investor and IRS scrutiny? So in today's session, our goal is to provide you some practical answers to each of these. Before we jump into the actual specifics of safe harboring, I do want to put 3 dates on your radar here. These 3 dates will specifically determine whether you get the full 40% ITC or if it's going to be nothing at all. So July 4th, 2026, that is the ITC safe harbor deadline. If you safe harbor before this date, meaning you meet either the 5% safe harbor test or physical work test, and you begin construction, or as commonly known as beginning of construction or BOC, you lock in today's ITC framework, and you get a runway all the way until December 31st, 2030 to place your projects in service. So that's 4.5 years of protected project pipeline. The second one here is December 31st, 2027. So if you miss the first July 4th safe harbor window, the 4.5 year runway collapses. So what does this mean? Any project that begins construction or achieves BOC after July 4th, 2026 has a hard placement in service cutoff date of December 31st, 2027. So if you miss that date, then the ITC drops to 0 and you don't get any of the credits on any of your projects. And then there's the cliff, right? So if you missed both of these, you missed the July 4th or safe harboring before July 4th, and you missed beginning construction and completing your project before 2027, that means you basically will not get any of the 40% ITC credits. So no 30% base, no domestic content adders, the credit will basically be gone, right? So that's something we clearly want you to understand with this slide. And here's why it matters. I don't think what we're trying to say here is, safe harbor is about rushing construction. It's about long-term stability, right? So the developers who are safe harboring today before July 4th are definitely going to be bidding on the same projects that as the same projects as the ones who did not, right? And they're going to win on price every single time because it's hard to compete against a 40% cost advantage. So the message here from us is simple. The cheapest, the safest, and the most flexible path here to safe harbor is to safe harbor before July 4th, 2026. And that single action itself protects your project economics for the next 4 years. Every other path, as you can see here, is shorter, riskier, and less forgiving. Okay, so the next thing we want to get into is, what does safe harboring and pursuing domestic content mean to your rooftop and carport projects? And what we're seeing here is it can be an economic win in both the project types, right? So in rooftops, you can see here the 40% ITC on a $2 per watt system is about 80 cents per watt. Even if you account for about 10 cents per watt for incremental equipment premium, projects still net around 70 cents per watt, right? So you still have that advantage here. And on carports, with about $3 per watt, the math is even more compelling. With higher system costs, you're able to achieve about $1.2 per watt in value, and with about 20 cents considered on the equipment premium, you're still able to capture about $1 per watt of that net benefit. So the takeaway here is again super simple. The incentives of 40% on all your projects exceed the added costs, which is going to directly improve your IRR and cash yield, and it'll ensure that you remain competitive now and through 2030. Okay,
Basha,
yeah.
before we jump into this question, can I just post one question from the audience, a clarification here? If you achieve larger than 5% physical work before July 4th, do you still need to safe harbor material to finish later in 2026?
I would say, Daniela, we hold this question for Kleber's section where he's going to go through the 5% and physical work test. And let's make sure we get the clarification there, if that makes sense.
Wonderful. Yes. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, I will pass it back to you on the next poll question.
Yes. Let's launch it. Perfect. Are you interested in exploring financing options for your safe harbor orders through Sunstone Credit? Option 1, yes, I'd like to learn more or get started. Maybe I want to understand the terms first. No, I plan to self-fund or already have financing. Or I didn't know financing for safe harbor was an option. So you have an opportunity here to cast your vote. Let's see. So there's a maybe, so great interest in learning some more about the terms. There's a fair share that already has some funding in place. So about 60, 63, 64% would like to learn more and would like to understand the terms. That's a great starting point for you, Duncan. All
Absolutely.
right.
Thank you very much. Oh, excuse me, Daniela. Thanks everybody for being here. Just before we get into my brief presentation, I wanted to emphasize the disclaimers that have already been made. Also, not an accountant or a tax professional, but this has been a hot topic for a while. So it is trying to bring the accumulated knowledge in this group to bear, and I think we've got a really good one here. So, as mentioned, there's sort of two ways you can lock your tax credit in before July 4th. One, physical work test. Two, safe harboring. With the 5% test, Kleber is going to go through both of those in more detail. So, hang tight. With respect, I'm going to talk about the 5% test. There are basically two things. There are two main things to understand there. The first is that it is, has been mentioned on the on the chat already, the Q&A. The EPC, the installer, you can't actually do the safe harboring. The safe harboring has to be done. The cost has to be incurred by the system owner. So your customer or the asset owner. And the second is title has to transfer before that July 4 deadline. So you have to actually get that, that equipment has to be, belong to the end user, the end system owner, before that July 4th deadline. So it's not enough to just get cash. It's not enough to just buy equipment. You have to sort of complete that full life cycle transaction. Most of our customers are doing what's on the screen now. So they are getting a deposit. Most of our installer partners, I should say, we're going to use the customer in a bunch of different ways here. Most of our installer partners are taking a deposit from the business owner of the system, the customer, as I'm calling them on this slide. So they are paying a deposit of 5 to 10%. Even though it's a 5% safe harbor, you want to, in an ideal world, you're taking a little bit more than 5% in order to account for any change orders or, scope creep or anything like that as the project advances. You'd hate to have a 5% safe harbor on a $100 project and then to have that project become a $120 project and you're out of luck. So taking that deposit of 5 to 10%, and using it to fulfill the safe harbor requirements. As discussed, the customer has to make that expenditure. So your customer has to give you that cash. You can't pull from inventory. You can't just set the modules aside. There has to be that expenditure in place, and all the other sort of title transfer requirements must be met. What Sunstone can do in that situation is provide financing for the other 90 to 95% for that customer. So if they take that deposit, and then you can rely on us for payment, and the customer can rely on us to make up the difference. And so in that situation, the customer has incurred an obligation, and the money is used to procure equipment, satisfy safe harbor requirements, and customer won't have to come out of pocket anymore for the rest of that project. The what Sunstone does with that 90 to 95% is give you, the installer, the ability to quickly and seamlessly offer financing at the point of sale to business borrowers, CNI borrowers, nonprofit borrowers. So basically non-residential, from 50,000 up as high as 30 million. And so we can provide that financing for the rest of the project, and then they can give you a deposit, and then that deposit can be used to fulfill the safe harbor requirements, and away we go. Our terms are built to be pretty happy for the customer, so we go up to 20 years, fixed rates. So it should be a compelling value prop for that customer. Varsha, you want to go next slide, please? We also have what we call the Milestone Plus program. So basically, Sunstone is intended to be permanent debt. We're intended to be the debt that allows the customer to sort of not come out of pocket and have that long-term financing in place. We do, however, have the ability to add basically a construction facility onto the front of that permanent debt. So we pay our contractors and our partners during that construction process. And with the Milestone Plus program, you can get 100% financing with a 5% draw in TP. So you basically would get 5% of the loan amount when loan contracts and installation contracts are signed. The customer is going to incur an obligation to repay the draw. So the customer has a loan, the customer has that a cost incurred, so it checks that box. And then as long as you use the proceeds from that draw to fulfill the rest of the safe harbor requirements, then you should be in good shape. I will flag that this is a construction loan, right? The customer is going to make interest-only payments on the amount drawn. So make sure that your customer is ready for the construction schedule that you're putting in front of it. I will also flag that not all EPCs, developers, installers will qualify. So we work with a huge variety of installers and developers. We give construction financing to a huge variety of installers and developers. In order to qualify for this specific program, we do require that there's at least $1 million in annual revenue, at least 3 years in business. We are no adverse findings, and you have to have a high quality borrower. So the Milestone Plus program is intended for folks that have some experience in the commercial world, where our sort of installation risk is a little less. But if you meet those requirements, it's a pretty interesting way to quickly get a customer approved and receive that 5% draw, so that you can satisfy those safe harbor requirements without the customer going out of pocket at all. So that's all you get to hear from me for now. Like I said, very excited to be here. If any of this sounds interesting, or you just want to learn more about how Sunstone can provide sort of simple, fast financing for your CNI borrowers, your CNI customers, your nonprofit customers, please don't hesitate to contact myself or Jonathan Crowley, who's on my team. The first step is to become a Sunstone partner. You can find that link on our website there. If you're already a Sunstone partner, thank you very much for your partnership. And I'll turn back over to Varsha.
Before Varsha goes, I do want to also tell everyone that we do have direct pay here at BayWa with Sunstone. So great partnership and really excited. So if you're thinking of Sunstone, we might be able to make it easier on you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Travis, for making this note. And thank you, Duncan, for sharing how working with Sunstone could really help. There's one quick follow-up question, and thank you all for bringing the questions in the Q&A. We will ask them throughout the presentation or at the end. So I appreciate your questions and your patience. For the financing part, is the customer personal credit or business credit? Duncan, is that something you could answer?
I'm back. So we rely primarily on business credit. So for loans under $750,000, we will take a personal guarantee, and that personal guarantee does have to meet certain standards. That allows us to go fast and not slow down your sales process. So sometimes the answer is both. Over $750,000, it's business credit. Yeah, over $750,000, it is business credit.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And there was also a number of questions asking for the presentation and the recording. You will be receiving the presentation, the recording, and all contact details. All right. I see you guys are already active on our next poll question. If you are not safe harboring, what's your biggest obstacle in doing so? Cash flow, upfront capital, not enough projects in my pipeline yet, documentation and compliance complexity, uncertainty about equipment choices, my customers aren't ready, I'm all set, no major barriers, or other. So if you have other, you don't find yourself here, please post it in the Q&A. We are curious to learn. Other is pre-grant approval expenditures are not allowed. That's an interesting one. All right, we see a little bit more movement. Cast your vote right now. It looks like we have come to a stop. It's a really good mix. Let's hear our experts. How do you comment those responses? There's complexity up in the running, uncertainty, project pipeline.
Yeah, this is Daniela. So this is something that I'll be covering a couple of these points here during my slides, and with regards to documentation and also the using, especially about the equipment choices to be used. So I think this is a good segue, for what I'm going to be presenting here. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Thank you, Varsha. Thank you, Duncan. Thank you, Daniela and BayWa team, for hosting us here. So let's, so as I mentioned, right, I'll be talking here the next few slides here on equipment for safe harbor, as well as, that not only for safe harbor, but also, that the equipment, right, that gives you the lower cost, the most flexibility, as well as, right, the equipment that will allow you to achieve the credit, right, which is the for FEOC compliance, as well as the domestic content bonus credit, right? So since you are doing the safe harbor to preserve those credits, you might as well, right, use the correct equipment for that. Next slide, please. So we've shared, right, with SolarEdge, we've been in a series of webinars since last year about tax credits, right? We discussed, right, the pathways to achieve the tax credits using our inverters, the SolarEdge C&I inverters. But now let's look about why safe harbor with the SolarEdge inverters, right? So first, the SolarEdge C&I inverters are US manufactured, which immediately strengthens both safe harbor and domestic content positioning. Our factory in Florida has an annual capacity greater than 4 gigawatts a year. Second, SolarEdge simplifies safe harbor execution. And what I mean by that, we have simplified significantly the number of SKUs for the products. As you can see here, we have one SKU for the Synergy inverter, we have one SKU for the lower power inverter, and then one optimizer. So with fewer SKUs and a small footprint, safe harboring with inverters reduce upfront capital costs and storage costs. And then third, the system will be certified to UL 3141, which is power export limit, which improves interconnection timelines and in some cases may lead to avoidance of having to pay for prevailing wage. This is especially important for our customers in California. Certification is expected by May of this year, which is this month, and any of the C&I products being shipped now will be backwards compatible with this certification. So you don't need to wait until we have the final certification. And last, which we'll explain in the next slides, SolarEdge C&I does the heavy lifting on FEOC and domestic content, giving projects flexibility everywhere else, and you are not locked into one type of equipment just to stay compliant, which protects both availability and pricing. So yeah, we already have here like this slide. So this is one slide that we've been working, right? And we talked to some partners with regards to storage cost, right? So this is a comparison between safe harboring with inverters or safe harboring with modules. At the end, right? I mean, like for instance, if you're taking the 5% test, which is like you're spending the 5% of your project, you're going to be spending the same amount of money, right? I mean, to buy the equipment. But what the difference here is that by the same amount, right? I mean, the 5% of the project cost, buying inverters or modules, this is the difference. Whenever you buy inverters, because if you have fewer SKUs, you have like a smaller footprint, you have to account for 80% less space whenever stocking inverters. Okay, so that's because of the pallet, right? I mean that you're packing more equipment per square feet, right? I mean on your warehouse, and therefore that leads to savings in cost as well, right? I mean for storage cost. I mean everybody understands, right? I mean that you pay for square footage on your warehouse, and therefore that translates into savings. So at the end of the day, right, I mean, like we're using a 16 megawatt AC portfolio and assuming that like those are the assumptions, $1.40, you know, I mean, per square foot per month for 2 years of storage. This is at the end, this is what you end up saving, about $130,000 savings on storage cost by using inverters. Next slide, please, Parsha. So now let's look, right? I mean, on how by using the inverters, as I mentioned, right? I mean, inverters, they do the heavy lifting with regards to get you to FEOC compliance or PFE compliance for you to get you the 30%, as well as domestic content. So first, the goal for FEOC compliance for projects is 40% for projects that safe harbor before July 4th. So by meeting this goal makes your project eligible to the base 30% ITC. So the SolarEdge equipment alone contributes to 24.8% towards the FEOC and PFE compliance, getting project more than halfway there right out of the gate. So the real benefit is flexibility. So after that, developers and project owners only need 15.2% more, and that can come from either modules or racking or a combination of both. And that flexibility avoids forcing projects into low availability, high cost module supply, and significantly reduces procurement and compliance risk. So now let's look at domestic content, right? I mean, building off the last slide on FEOC, the same SolarEdge advantage carries directly into domestic content. Previously, we showed how SolarEdge C&I inverters cover 24.8% of the FEOC requirement, giving rooftops flexibility on modules or racking. Here, that same inverter contribution again does the heavy lifting, this time towards the 50% domestic content threshold. So with SolarEdge plus US racking, projects reach over 44% even before considering modules. So that I'm using the guidance, right? I mean, the latest guidance, the Treasury guidance of 2025-08. So those are percentages from the table, from the rooftop MLP. So with inverters plus racking, you get to 44.4%. And that means only a small 5.6% module contribution is needed, which opens far more sourcing options and avoids high cost, limited availability module strategies. You can use modules with domestic made frame and junction box, or use a small amount of modules with US cells. Okay, So now let's look at getting the ITC, right? I mean, the 40% ITC credit, right? I mean, on carports and ground mount projects. So the SolarEdge C&I equipment, Vash, you can go to the next one, please. There you go. Thank you. So the SolarEdge C&I equipment contributes 6.4 towards the PFE and FEOC calculation for the carport and ground mount fixed. And that may sound modest, but it's strategically important because it opens flexibility on the module side. So what that means, the remaining 33.6%, right? I mean, that you have to get to the 40% to achieve the PFE compliance, that can be achieved using modules with low non-FEOC content, meaning frame, backsheet, encapsulant, and junction box, instead of forcing projects to procure modules with non-FEOC cells. So in other words, right, I mean, by using the SolarEdge inverters to get, right, I mean, to PFE compliance, which you have to achieve the 40% threshold, you can use a partial domestic content module or a partial, as actually I should say better, a partial FEOC compliant module, which, right, I mean, can be achieved using, like I mentioned, frame, backsheet, encapsulant, and junction box. So you do not need to have a module with modules like cells, right, I mean, that achieve the FEOC compliance. So now let's look at domestic content credit, right? I mean, how to achieve the domestic content bonus credit for carports and ground mounts, fixed, that is. So the SolarEdge C&I inverters provide a strong domestic content contribution toward domestic content compliance using the direct cost method. So here I'm kind of switching, right? I mean, I'm explaining how to achieve the domestic content bonus credit using the direct cost method. And because of this, projects are not forced into fully domestic, high-cost modules. That flexibility allows owners to use lower domestic content modules, which is also known, right, I mean, for light DC modules with imported cells, while still reaching the 50% domestic content threshold at the project level. These modules have more availability and cost less than the modules with US cells. This is especially important for carport and small ground mount projects where module availability and pricing can make or break timelines and returns. So again, this solution blend only works because of SolarEdge C&I product with its high domestic content levels. Without that inverter contribution, customers are forced into a higher cost and lower availability module strategies. Okay.
Lever. One quick
yes.
question, the examples that you just showed, a question here from the audience. What size system are you using for these examples? 6.4% of what dollar amount?
So the 6.4% is for any dollar amount. So this is using the guidance, right? I mean, the tables from 2025-08 Treasury guidance. So, and also taking advantage of the latest guidance, 2026-15, which confirmed that the tables from 2025-08 guidance can be used. So the 6.4% for this calculation here comes from the 2025-08 table under ground mount fixed, right? So what we're doing is just that we're adding what contribution that our inverters can check, right? And we can check the box on the table, and that means those are like the PCBAs. They are the thermal management system, the enclosure, and production. So that's all we're using. We're using these values. They're straight from the table that was provided by Treasury.
Thank you so much for this clarification.
Welcome. Good question. So my next two slides here, which are the last two slides on my side, those are also, kind of just as an overall, right? How to do the safe harbor. So there are two ways to safe harbor, right? One is what we call the 5% test. And the second one that I'll be presenting in the next slide is the physical work test. The 5% test is only available for projects below or at 1.5 megawatts AC. So this came, right, from the guidance in 2025-42 that provided this guidance, okay? So this is what it does, right? So for projects at or under 1.5 megawatt AC, the 5% test is a workable path. So the project entity itself must pay at least 5% of total project costs upfront. And I would recommend building in a buffer above that 5% to account for any cost overruns. The purchase order must be non-cancelable, and you receive full delivery within 105 days of contract signing. So the demand is high, right? And you're kind of marching here towards the July 4th deadline. So we still have capacity, right? To meet this, to be able to accept orders, but you must act fast, right? I think that there was a question I was looking before my turn here, right? Like on the Q&A, on whether or not it's allowable, right? 105 days. Yes. So if you place an order today, if you incur that 5%, then we have SolarEdge will deliver within 105 days the equipment. Okay. So yes, that is a possibility for the 5% test. Okay. Next slide, please. So the second path for safe harbor is what we call the physical work test. Okay, so we recommend that the physical work test is for if you have a large pipeline of projects for the next 4 years, and you are going to be using, I think it's an or here. If you have a large project pipeline, or you have projects in your pipeline that are above 1.5 megawatt AC. Okay, so how does this work? SolarEdge manufactures a special component for the non-standard inverters. So we'll store this part until you're ready to take delivery of the non-inventory inverters, in which time we'll manufacture the non-inventory inverters with that special part that we manufactured and stored in our warehouses. So this option provides the most flexible payment terms, as you pay for the special components up front and then pay for the non-inventory inverters as you take delivery of them. Okay, so if you're interested in this option, you need to act fast. And this one, you are going to have to act faster than the 5%. Why? Because we SolarEdge, we need to manufacture that special component of the non-inventory inverter and place on a shelf, right? And it has to be traceable. We have to register all the serial number of that part. And that needs to be manufactured and put in our stock, right? In our inventory by July 4th. Okay. So on both options, we'll be more than happy to help you, but the clock is ticking, right? Act fast depending on the paths that you want to take, and feel free, right? To reach out to us, and we'll guide you which option is the best for you.
There are a few questions about the physical work test. Maybe you answered that already, but maybe just jump in here again. If you achieve larger than 5% physical work before July 4th, do you still need to safe harbor material to finish later in 2026?
So if you already did the physical work test and you are confident, right? You achieved that, you and your tax attorney, right? You folks, taxpayer, the tax attorney, right? You're comfortable with the physical work test that you've done, then no, you do not need to safe harbor anything else for your projects that will happen before 2026.
Awesome. And if one safe harbors and begins construction by July 4th, 2026, is it also required to show continuous progress? And if so, how is that done? Seems only megawatts or multi-megawatts would be large enough to literally be able to start in 2026 and need to continue beyond 2027.
Yeah, so this is actually, so this is what we're showing, right? I mean, when I mentioned that we deliver, if you pursue the physical work test, right? I mean, with our inverters, we are going to start the manufacture of that special component of the non-inventory inverters, right? So therefore, you are showing progression, right? I mean, you're showing progress towards the project, right, by having that equipment being manufactured. So that is to satisfy that requirement under the physical work test.
Thank you. I hope that answers your question. If not, keep posting in Q&A. There's two more on that. If I have a very specific case, if I have a 1.75 megawatt DC job, phase 1, then we'll be in service in 2027 with phase 2, 7.5 megawatt DC starting 2027, 2028. Can I safe harbor enough cost, 5% on phase 1 to cover phase 2? Now it just jumped away. The question just jumped away. All right. Did that answer your questions? It was like kind of like a spillover to phase 2.
Yeah, I think I would say, Daniela, this one is one of those special cases. I would suggest, so it's phase 1, even it's phase 1 and phase 2, if it's going to be sharing the same point of interconnection, which is under, like I would say, the same energy property, then you have to consider that as a whole, right? I mean, so if it's the same interconnection, then I think was 1.7 plus 7, right? So
7.5.
yeah, you have to assume that the whole thing is going to be done. But be careful, because then with that point, projects that large will not be, you're not going to be able to use the 5% test. You're going to have to only be able to use the physical work test. So in that case, talk with us, and then we can determine, right? I mean, kind of if the physical work test could be a possibility for your project here.
Yeah, please reach out in those specific cases. There was another question on what's included in the 5%. Does that include any cost for design and other?
It does, yeah.
Or just
So
equipment?
yeah, it's the whole project. So that's not equipment, that's for the whole project. And therefore, this is why we recommend doing a little more than 5% to account for all of the project overruns, right? I mean, like drawings, engineering, so forth.
Awesome. I think that's about it. There is another question on the tables that you were referring to in your examples. We can provide those resources, those tables with the percentages as a follow-up. Yeah.
I think Andrew, right? Andrew is asking that question. I think what we can do, Andrew, we presented a webinar specifically on this, which was we presented one in the fall and one also like in a month ago, where we go specifically under the tables. We explain the tables, right? That does not have anything to do on the tables. It has nothing to do with project cost, but it has to do, right? I mean, with the Treasury guidance that was shared by Treasury.
Excellent. Does SolarEdge have domestic hybrid inverters or BESS options?
Good question. So on the C&I side, we do not have hybrid inverters, but we do have an option for an energy storage. We're collaborating with an energy storage provider using our energy management system. So reach out to us, and we can provide you more details on that battery.
Yeah, and in extension to that, are the batteries part of the project?
Yeah. No. So that's a different energy property. Then it has to be treated separately.
Thank you. Keep those questions coming. Yes, you will be able to get all the contacts of all the presenters as a follow-up after presentation. Back to Asha.
All right. Thanks, Kleber. Thanks, Daniela. I think a lot of great questions are coming, and Daniela, we tried to answer a few within the chat itself, but I'm sure it's going to keep coming until the end. So we have 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to summarize what we went through here on the steps to safe harbor before July 4th. We're seeing it as 5 different steps here. So step 1 is you're defining your starting point, which is looking at your project pipeline, figuring out what POC on July 4th actually protects for you in terms of projects. Because remember that that's the one date that locks in your 4-year runway through 2030 to finish the project, right, and place it in service. And it is what determines your PFE, the PFE values, the prohibited foreign entity and domestic content thresholds that your projects would fall under. Step 2 is choosing your compliance path. And this is exactly what Kleber just went through in detail. And this is the one I really want you to remember, because under IRS Notice 2025-42, if your project is over 1.5 megawatt AC, the physical work test is your only option. And 5% is off the table. For everything under that, the 5% test is your path. And like we talked about, pick your equipment at the same time, because the SolarEdge US manufactured inverters do double duty, and Kleber neatly explained this with the bubbles. Essentially, it can do both PFE compliance and domestic content with the same 24.8%. Step 3 is lining up capital. So the project entity itself has to pay or incur the 5% and not the EPC. A lot of you put this in the chat as well, because there are people who assume that the EPC's equipment purchase counts on its own. And it doesn't, right? And don't aim exactly for 5%. Kleber did mention this in his section, and I saw, Simon, you also wrote about this in the chat. Try to target the 7 or 8%, because if your project costs end up coming up higher than you expected, you don't want to find out that you ended up at 4.8%, right? So try to have that buffer. Step 4 is meeting that 5% threshold. So costs need to be incurred by July 4th. And that means you'll have to take delivery and title within 105 days of incurring that payment. And the financing piece, it's between a customer deposit and Sunstone's Milestone Plus program that Duncan went through. And with this, your customers should be able to safe harbor with $0 out of pocket. And that's a real option. And if you have any questions on it, I know you have Duncan's contact, but also reach out to your SolarEdge representative who can walk you through it for anything above 500K. And the last step, and this is the most important one, is creating that audit-ready file, right? Making sure that everything is documented. Contracts, invoices tied to the project, title transfer, serial numbers, chain of custody, you name it. Wrap it all up with an AUP. An AUP is an agreed upon procedure, like our tax partner Novograd calls it. So get that AUP report from a CPA firm so your tax equity investors can underwrite it with confidence. Just remember that PFE is pass or fail. There's going to be no partial credit and you cannot fix it later. So this step isn't just going to be paperwork. It's going to be more like your insurance.
Quick question here for you, Vasha. If someone says, I don't have a project yet, but I'm planning to buy the inverters or modules already, is there a way to safe harbor the project even if it will be confirmed after July 4th?
I do believe you need to confirm the project and have the contract in place in order to safe harbor. And it should be earmarked, and you should have the, the bill of materials and everything. So that is not possible. Yeah. No problem. Okay. Now for the practical side, and this is for distribution, right? So it's for Daniela, Travis, and team. If you as a distributor are going to support your customers with Safe Harbor, here's how the process works. And this is what your customers would need to buy from you in order to act before the July 4th deadline. So the process itself is 3 steps. So you as a distributor should have the material possession and title of the project by late June from us, right? And you transfer that title to your installer, EPC, or developer and receive full payment of at least 5% of the facility costs by July 4th. And then your customer has about 105 days to take delivery. And just keep that simple, clean, and audit defensible. Two deadlines here from us, right? So if your customer places a standard order, or I think, Daniela, this is for you. If you guys place a standard order with us by May 15, 2026, there's no expedite fee. SolarEdge will ensure that we ship the products to you by June 28th, and the title transfers to your customer comfortably before July 4th. If you do end up waiting till May 16th, we have an expedite fee of 5% on the overall order between May 16th and 31st. And you still have to make sure you complete transfer by July 4th. So the takeaway is July 4th is the legal deadline for sure, but for distribution, buying from us and ensuring it's in the channel so customers can buy from them, May 15th to 31st will be the actual real deadline. And that's why make sure that this is being communicated to our customers here and to the folks on this webinar as well, so you can build your timeline backwards from there. And just one critical operational note here, you'll see at the bottom, make sure you confirm availability with the SolarEdge sales rep before placing the order. And every safe harbor PO has to be marked explicitly, right? So just let's ensure that it is actually marked with a specific label, because a standard PO won't get treated as a safe harbor order just because the intent was there, right? So you'll need to explicitly specify that from your side. Daniela, anything to add here? And I know you're presenting the next slide, but
no, I really appreciate the specific call out, what that means retroactively, how to engage with us, right? With your distributor, with BayWa. And if we could jump to the next slide, it's really the key takeaway here. If we could move to the next slide, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Awesome. So the key takeaway is really here, the timing. You see here July 3rd. It is, the legal deadline is July 4th, but July 3rd is a Friday. So just bear that in mind when you plan for your safe harbor products. So BayWa is here for you to remove any kind of complexity from procurement, compliance storage, serial level documentation, flexible delivery, all is handled for you. So let BayWa handle the heavy lifting here for you. And why this matters, what that means in practice is it allows you to price future projects with up to 40% ITC advantage. It allows you to protect your margins, to outperform your competitors who miss the deadline. So July 3rd is the hard, or July 4th is the hard cutoff. Now is the moment to put everything in place. And if you are unsure how much equipment to secure or how this fits in your pipeline, this is where BayWa can help you, and your BayWa representative. And Travis, handing it to you for like 1 minute. Anything to add?
No, I think you nailed it. Please reach out directly to either your BayWa rep or me to help support you in your journey here.
Awesome. Thank you. There are a few more questions in the chat. If I can maybe just post one or two, because this is a complex topic. One attendee says, if I have a project that will complete before December 31st, do I need to safe harbor?
Before December 31st, 2026 or 2027?
It actually says 2027. Yeah.
2027. Yes, I would say you don't have to, but here's the thing. If you don't safe harbor now, then your FEOC compliance and domestic content compliance will increase by 5%. So instead of your threshold, your goal for FEOC compliance being 40%, it's going to be 45%, and your domestic content is going to be 55% instead of 50%. So my suggestion is do the safe harbor now, so that not only you lock in, you account for any delays on your project, but also you lock into the thresholds, the goals for FEOC compliance and domestic content compliance as of 2026.
Awesome. Barsha, why don't you take us home? I know there are some questions we haven't been able to answer, but you can reach out to us. Back to you, Barsha.
All right. Just very quickly, I'll say in summary, what you're doing is locking in certainty through 2030. Like we said, safe harbor isn't about rushing construction at all. It's all about locking in the eligibility, improving your project finances and economics, and staying competitive through 2030 as the incentives become harder to capture. Maximize your tax credits, right? Like Daniela said, Kleber said, Duncan said, it's all about preserving that 40% ITC that includes the 30% base and the 10% adder for domestic content. And this is like your easiest, lowest risk path to FEOC and domestic content compliance, because SolarEdge inverters do the heavy lifting, and they create that flexibility for you to pair with either modules or racking. And this ensures that you're able to reduce your cost, supply chain risk, and diligence friction. And last but not the least, I'll just say that there are some contacts here. So here are some next steps. So if you do want to contact us or schedule a meeting with us, please feel free to scan the QR code. We'll keep this page open while we answer some of the other questions. But yeah, you can also contact Kleber, Duncan, or myself, and even Travis here. And we'll definitely make sure we make the necessary introductions anywhere else that you need. And I think with that, I'm going to end it. There's a lot of educational content we've created over the past few months, right? We're very active over social media, especially LinkedIn. We have a couple of educational blogs that Kleber and I have written. We have a navigating FEOC letter that helps you answer, like the most commonly asked questions. A lot of the questions that you post here is answered there as well. So we will be sure to include all of these resources to you in the follow-up email that we send out as well. So Daniela, with that, if you want, I can answer just a couple of questions I'm seeing here. Somebody asked if the optimizers are domestic content also. I wanted to confirm yes. On Kleber's slide, if you remember, every single inverter is installed with C651U power optimizer, and that is domestic content compliant and FEOC compliant. So yes to that. Are there any other questions, Daniela?
There is one. I'm not sure we can give a fast answer, but maybe we can attempt to it. How do you transfer the 5% safe harbor to customer?
Yeah, so Kleber, feel free to add here, but I was going to say you have to transfer title, right? As well as make sure the material is actually delivered. So it's not just paper ownership. You have to have the material as well, right?
That's right.
But again, we're not a tax consultant, so make sure you consult your tax attorney.
Yeah. If you as an EPC, if you're buying equipment and you're selling that, right, to a taxpayer, to a project owner, that has to be transferred by July 4th, July 3rd, to use that Daniela's advice.
Awesome. That was a really important answer right there. All of these deadlines have to be taken into account. There's a question: do these SolarEdge formulas include the power optimizers? Were they included here?
Yes, all of them. Yes.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then there was one comment, a question, if you could also share in the follow-up some of the references to the previous webinars when it is about the domestic content and the tables, that would be appreciated. So you can expect a wonderful follow-up email with the presentation, with more resources, with all the contact details and references, and also the recording will be provided to you as well. We are a little bit late. Apologies for that. And a really big thank you to SolarEdge and to Sunstone Credit for being here and really helping us understand the safe harbor topic and what to do, and very actionable to-dos from all different angles. I really appreciate your partnership and you being here. Thank you so much. Also, attendees, thank you for joining us for this webinar. Please reach out to us for any types of questions. We are here to help you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Daniela. Thanks for having us. Thank you, everyone, for your engagement. Have a great day. Bye.